All right, so we are doing geometry for Unit 6. And the first one, we're just going to get used to some basic terms and some basic concepts of geometry, nothing too terribly difficult. All right, so first things first, some vocabulary. Some of this you may have known already, but we're going to go through it anyway. So the point is an exact location in space. It doesn't have any length, width, or depth. And basically, if you were to look at an image, it would just be a dot and it would be labeled with a letter to basically denote the point. That doesn't mean that it occupies any space or anything. All right, so a line is a straight path that continues forever in two directions. So basically, it goes on either way forever. We've kind of been introduced to this last unit and the unit before, but it doesn't have any width. So that's kind of where this might be a little bit new for you for geometry. And of course, you've seen a line. And again, remember that it goes on forever. And the way that we denote a line in geometry is with this right here. So we've got the 2 points AB, okay? So we say line AB, and we draw the line above it, and you have arrows on both sides. Okay? So it's important to know your notations with this. Next, we have a line segment. So a line segment, very similar to a line, and again, should be a little bit of review. It's the portion of a line lying strictly between 2 points. It has a finite length, meaning it has a definite length. It doesn't go on forever, and again, no width. So the difference is, so you see the dots, you don't see any arrows on the end. And so when we make the notation, we put the 2 points, A, B. You could write BA too, doesn't matter. And then we don't put any arrows on the end, just a straight line above it. All right, next we have a ray. A ray can be thought of as half of a line. So it has a point at one end, so it's a definite end point, but it goes infinitely in one direction. So, for example, we've got point A, and it goes all the way infinitely in this direction, and we put B on the end. So we would say ray AB, and this only has one arrow, and it's on the right side. Now, it is important to note that this right here, whatever the end point is, wherever it starts, should be the first letter there. You cannot say ray BA, because that would mean that this would have a point here, and this would have an arrow. So the first letter is always the point that does not extend infinitely in one direction. Now, collinear points. Collinear points are a set of points that lie in a straight line. So we've got these 3 points PQR, and they are on a line. So we can say that PQ and R are collinear. If I added a point down here and I said that this is S, S would not be collinear with any of these. They have to all be on the same line. Intersecting lines are lines that have one and only one point in common. So this point C is the point of intersection, and that is the only point that line AE and line BD have in common. You could say line BC, you could say line AC, it doesn't matter. When you have more than one point on a line, then you can say any 2 points on that line because the line goes forever in either direction. All right, so we are going to name a line first. Now, you could have any number of things. I'm just going to put a few of them up there. You could say line AE. You could say line AC. You could say line DE. And you could say line BD. There's a few others you could put. You could say line EC. You could say line EB. You could say line CE. So even though these two are basically the same, you can switch the order of the letter. It doesn't matter. So these are just some examples of ways that you could name those lines. Collinear points. Now these have definite answers. A, E, and C are all on the same line. And B, E, and D are all on the same line. So those are collinear. These aren't collinear with each other. This is one set of collinear points. This is another set of collinear points. And then a ray, you could do any number of things with this. Be careful of your notation though. So we could say ray EC, which would basically be this, going on forever in that direction. We could say ray EB, which would again start at E and go forever in that direction. We could say ray ED, and it would basically go in that direction, and then of course EA. Okay, the other thing you could do though, you could say ray CE, but what you want to know is that it starts at C and goes forever in this direction. So that second letter tells you the direction it's going in. The first letter tells you its starting point. Okay, if I said ray BD, that's basically the same thing as ray BE. Okay, they both start at B and go forever in that direction. All right, your turn. So I want you to try and name a line, and then name some collinear points, and then name a ray. So take a minute, write down what you think, and just because you might not have what I have doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. So take a minute, pause it, write it down. I really want you to do this. All right, and so some lines that you could have named, AO, AB, CD, CO. You could have had, basically the only wrong answers would be, so if we said, okay, what are not lines? AC, according to this, not a line. CB, according to this diagram, not a line. So just be careful how you're naming these, all right? Collinear points, COD or AOB. And then array, you could have ray OC, ray OB, ray OD, ray OA, or you could have a ray AB, ray BA, which would be two different rays. It's really hard to get this wrong. Again, if you put ray AC, wrong. If you put ray BD, wrong. So basically, if you have a diagram like this and you get to name the points, just make sure the points are collinear. All right. Again, try it on your own. See if you do any better this time. Or if, unless you did perfect last time, then match what you did. So lines, you could have GE, GH, DE, DF. Collinear points, DEF and GEH. And then array, you could have ray ED, ray EG, ray EH, and ray EF. All right, so now hopefully you have this beat into your head. So now we have to do constructions. Okay, to do a construction, you need a few things. You need a compass and a ruler. All right, straight edge doesn't necessarily have to be a ruler, helps so. That will establish collinearity. Okay, if we're not using a ruler to measure though, we're only using it for drawing the lines. And then a compass can establish equidistance. It doesn't just draw curves, it keeps the pencil at a fixed distance. So like let's say I had a point right here, and I had a point right here, and I had another point right here. So I've got these two measured. I could spin this around to here. So basically this thing would be over here. And if it was the same, if you didn't have to make any adjustments in here, then those points would be equidistant. Or you could just take that center point and draw a circle with it. And if both points were on the circle, then they would be equidistant. All right, so on your notes, I want you to do this. Draw 3 points that are collinear. So if we were to grade this on a test, you would get 2 points for having 3 points correctly labeled in a straight line. You get 1 point for having all 3 points, but not correctly labeling it or not on a straight line. So D, E, and F have to be collinear. Okay, 3 points on a line, label D, E, F. That would be a 2-point answer right there. Ray Y, Z. So now it doesn't have the notation above it, but we said that it was a ray. And so the first letter has to be Y. Okay, the starting point has to be Y. That can't have the arrow on the end. The second letter is where the arrow extends to. Okay, so 1 point if you attempted it but weren't right, 0 if you made no attempt. So even if you don't know, don't leave these questions blank. All right, so again, give it a shot, see what you do. So QRNS would be collinear if all 3 points were on the same line like that. 2-point answer for array CD. So C is your starting point and it extends at D, arrow only on one end. And then finally, not finally, but next we have angles. Okay, so angles, notice we have angle ABC. Okay, this middle letter here tells you what the vertex is. So B must be the vertex. So it doesn't necessarily have to look like this, but this part has to happen. So where your both lines extend out from, that point has to be the middle letter. So if it was, say if it was angle CDE, I could draw this and I could say, well, my middle letter is D, so I have to put that there. And then I could put my C and my E. I could put C there and E there. Or I could make that E. And I could change that to C. Wouldn't matter. Either way, it would be correct. All right. All right, so name the angle below in 3 different ways. So, obviously, we could say angle ABC because we could start at A. So basically, you start at a point out and you go to the vertex and then out to the other point. So ABC. Or you could just say angle B. So if at the if your vertex looks like this, so if you have this, all right, let me just use this drawing. So B is a vertex for only one angle. So we could say, well, this is just angle B. When we would not be able to do that is if I had a third line coming from that and I said, okay, let's say I name that D. Now if I say angle B, I actually have 3 angle B's. This is one angle B, this is one angle B, and the big one on the outside is an angle B. So if you're going to use just a single letter, make sure that it's a vertex for only one angle. And then you could reverse it and say angle CBA. All right, again, since H is the middle letter, H has to be the vertex. And I should point out that when you're creating anything, you must use a straight edge. Okay, you can't just draw it by hand, so don't expect to be able to get away with it if you're doing that. So I could draw a big angle here. H has to be the vertex, and I could say GHI, or I could flip it and say IHG. Doesn't matter. Name the angle below 3 different ways. Well, we could do EDF. We could do just angle D, since D is only a vertex for one angle. Or we could say angle FDE. All right, so hopefully this is going to be a little bit easier for some of you that may have struggled with the algebra a little bit. But if not, just pay attention to this, do the videos, do the notes, and you will do fine, I promise.